impossible, and at worst deceptive, to produce legislation that is 1,100 pages long in the first place. Therefore, do you commit to support requiring that any proposed legislation contain a summary in plain English of every action and effect of that legislation?
Question that related to a one-page summary, is that the question? Because I said no to that. I don't see the one page in that. The reason why I said no to that is because it referenced one page.
It doesn't, from what we can all see, it doesn't specify a one page. But I think as a businessman, you know what an executive summary is. I've had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
the answer is it should have a summary. I recall saying one page. I don't have my documents with me, but I just didn't think that it could be pigeonholed to one page. Again, I had a problem with one page. And furthermore, I don't think any legislation should be 1,100 pages long. Where's the shredder? So I guess my answer to that is yes, it should be a summary, but I was concerned about the number of pages.
in short, you wanted the executive summary to actually tell listener, not be led to
That's correct.
That's
you always look at the raw data. There are certain instruments that produce raw data, then there are certain instruments that show the raw data in a field, you might say, the nicer fashion. You always rely upon the raw data. And the raw data is the bill. The summary is a best crack at summarizing the bill, but the raw data is the bill. You have to read the bill. How many people read the bill? How many people read the health care bill? Was it one? I mean, I don't know about you, but if I were reading 2,500 pages of that stuff, I'd start falling asleep. I don't think I'd get through it. That's why I think it's good for the shredder.
Okay, number 31 from the questionnaire. Do you agree that all federal department budgets must begin the following year appropriation process with a zero base, with no automatic baseline increase built in?
The reason why I answered no to that is that, and I do a lot of budgets. We manage over 100 condominium regimes in New York City. And I believe that the budget process should be dynamic each year. I don't think that any budget process should start with a fixed number for the following year based upon the prior year. I think all things should be on the table. That's why I said no to that. You know, for instance, you could have an expenditure in real estate of $50,000 a year, and that specific expenditure could go away completely. You pay off your mortgage, you don't have interest anymore, so the interest line disappears, goes away. So I just think that we have to, it has to be a more dynamic process. That's all. That's my experience in doing all these things year after year. That's why I said no to that.
We're on number 33, Mark. Do you agree that if any previous year's budget resulted in a deficit, then new spending items or increases in existing spending items that a congressman would want to propose must be proposed and voted on in tandem with a 102% corresponding budget cut of existing items that are already in the budget?
Frank, I know you can answer that for me as to why I said no to that.
I don't think I can.
I have a problem with the 102 corresponding budget cut. My basic theory is that you can't spend more than you have. Okay, you have a certain revenue stream. You can't spend more than that. You know, you shouldn't be printing money for that purpose. But why 102% budget cut? Why not 103%? I had a problem with that.
What would you propose?
Well, as I said, I would look at each item very carefully, and I would look to come up with a number based upon what you see as the projected spending for that item, if at all, and the balance, the budget at the bottom line should be zero. Neither neither surplus nor deficit.
I think if I were to try to interpret the intent of the question, which is difficult for anyone to do, I guess, because we haven't written it. But I think the intent of the question was, before you spend a buck, make sure that
you have a buck.
And then you don't. And then the overall intent, I think, may be to say that we want to reduce the amount that we spend year after year.
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
That's why I said no, because I deal with these budgets every year, and to me it's a dynamic process. And when we just put in a simple 102%, I don't know what that means.
By the way, most people here agree with you. They didn't know what it meant either.
Yeah. And, when you have a true or a false or a yes or a no, you've got to put something in.
Yeah.
And in 3 cases, I put nothing in because I just didn't. And these are all going to be similar, so let's go on to 35 too.
Do you agree that if the previous year budget resulted in a surplus, then the new federal budget can increase by no more than 50% of the previous year's surplus?
It's the same question. It's the same answer, I'm sorry. I had a problem with 50%. Why should we have an increase at all? Why do we have to think about having an increase of 50%? Pay down the deficit.
Okay. We're at the last one. Do you agree that under a national sales tax, businesses must be protected against unfunded mandates by providing those business retailers with a percentage of the revenues collected and remitted to the federal government to compensate them for administration costs?
Well, this is essentially the fair tax proposal, I think. National sales tax, fair tax. The answer is, I think that there should be a fee that these hardworking people get for doing the work of the IRS, which is going to be eliminated. So the answer is sure. The government should not force these people to do this for nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for participating this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.